Welcome to the season finale of Podcaster Toten. My name's Rad.
I'm Matt.
Hello, I'm Tack.
I'm Nabberzunner.
It's been quite a season of podcasting. Um, so today we're gonna kind of talk about just our like most utopian expectations for Black Ops Cold War Zombies. This is a game kicking off what might be a whole new era of zombies for all we know. So I mean, it's kind of worth talking about what we want the most, and then we'll kind of look back at what we've done here and our history. So I guess we should start off with the utopia. So Hunter, what is your? I'm gonna start you off because this is your idea. What is your utopia for Cold War zombies? What do you want the most?
The most common one is that the future of zombies happens after Toten. And I'll be honest, my take is I don't like that idea. I don't think it's necessary. I think that we let Toten be the end and we let it rest. It is the conclusion to that story. Yeah, I think that.
Okay.
Oh, okay, really? Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, I think that that's the end of Primus, of Ultimus, of Victus. That is the end of the epic that we built up to through, from the time that we nuked the Earth and so on and so forth. And I think that I'm beginning to call what I hope Cold War will be is the terminal storyline. So where you could almost pick up with World at War through, I mean, maybe Black Ops. You could probably count Black Ops in, but most importantly, the Black Ops terminal is all the information that's in the terminal that talks about what the CIA and the OSS were aware of, and the encounters between the Red Army and the Allied forces at Dariza. I think these are things. This is where the story needs to pick up. It not as something that happens chronologically after Black Ops 4, but something that actually happens chronologically during slash after World War and BO1, like kind of straddling the line between those two, that tells us that post-war, those post-war efforts that return to that believability of the zombie storyline that we had so early on, where the locations and the events were so muddled in uncertainty as to whether they were true or not. That you'd find yourself occasionally wondering, is there really a Duriza facility out there? Did it actually exist? Like, these events happen in remote locales and under top secret conditions. We could just pretend for a minute that it actually happened, and we can see why the whole world wasn't affected. That is until Moon. So anyway, that's my take. Just that it actually takes place prior in a way to Tog and everything, but immediately following the events of World at War.
So it's kind of a smaller story, like lowering the stakes. It's more
Yeah.
personal. Yeah.
Actually, lowering the stakes. Just to comment on that. I would downright plead for simpler Easter eggs. We don't need to destroy planets. We don't need to destroy universes. We don't need to destroy multiverses. I mean, the stakes just kept getting bigger and bigger. I mean,
So I wanna ride off that a little bit and say I think my two things are I want anything in the Ether universe. Doesn't even have to be related to the old characters. Doesn't have to be, just it in the Ether universe broadly, in the Ether universe, multiverse, broadly speaking, whatever. And then I don't want the story to be every game we're banishing something to the dark ether and it somehow begins to creep back in and it's just the same story of trying to like banish it and not being able to, and it's just like that just becomes its own, like that's the whole story. That's for me. I think, yeah, I like a lot of what Hunter said. The Darius massacre, like I want that for so long, and that to be canon, to be a thing. So a lot of the BO1 World at War vibes. I want an Ether universe generally. Doesn't really have to be even that connected to the old stuff. But in the same vein, like we've talked about with Perseus, there's so much you can do with the Manhattan Project. So with him being a spy theoretically for that, like there's just a lot of stuff like that I want to see, and then I just don't want to see the same overarching story of things bleeding in from the dark ether every time.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I guess to sort of piggyback after what you were saying, and Hunter, to kind of continue with my usual stick, I really would like to see a return to the more historically based things. it's sort of given me hope that since the Cold War is sort of like the sequel to Black Ops, like we might go back to that World at War Black Ops era of zombie storytelling, and that's exciting. I think for me, I guess to say something different, because I always say the same things, whether it's dinosaurs, chaos, and either connected. This might be an unpopular opinion, but one of the things that I always loved about zombies, and I guess in my utopia, was I really liked Ultimus as the cast that you play as. And I know it's like their story should be over, but I feel like the popularity of zombies, it's not going to go away, and trying to permanently banish or lock something away, you're in this middle ground where I think everyone just kind of has to realize that this is going to continue. So there's to soften the blow, maybe expand the scope of the universe instead of trying to put brackets or hard stopping things, because there's like the Richtofen nesting doll in the Moscow map. Like we're already getting references to Richtofen and Ultimus even after it's supposed to be the end of their story, which leads me to believe they're probably coming back in some way, shape, and form. I feel like in my utopia, it would be to take those characters and then, like I said earlier, expand the scope of what it means to be in the Ether universe and what kind of entities are out there. Like I thought it would kind of be, to go use Chaos as an example. For me, it would be interesting if the Chaos story opened up, or the cinematic, but it was like Primus, or maybe even Ultimus. Like this is sort of a sub story that happened where they were banished to like some part of the multiverse or sent back in time or some sort of wacky adventure. Like stuff like that, I think would really be interesting, because I feel Ultimus or Primus are sort of a perfect vehicles to a larger and more comprehensive and kind of like sinister background story, where kind of on the surface, especially with Ultimus, they're sort of like lackadaisical and kind of stereotypical characters. And I always love that contrast and sort of using them to peer into what's behind the veil. So I think for me, my utopia would be to have them, but just take it elsewhere in the universe. And two, this is more gameplay, but I really, especially now with maps and you don't have to pay for them, I would like to see, and I know it's difficult because it's probably a lot to port over, but just to have a sense of cohesiveness with map chronology and not having to like boot up one game to play this map or one game to play another. Like it started with Chronicles and Black Ops or Black Ops 3. And then we're always people's like, oh, when's Chronicles 2 coming out? It feels like so much of that is fractured. And now that there's the chance that you don't actually have to pay for those maps, it would be fun to have a game, or hell, even put it in like a Warzone section where you can just go back and play all the old Zombies maps, and you can finally have like all your friends playing it, where you don't have to worry about who has what, who's paid $15 for this or that. So an obligatory dinosaurs in the game. So that's my spiel.
I have one question for you guys to tie two of your points together.
Mhm.
So I really, like I said, I really like the idea of expanding different parts of the Ether universe and then not having Easter eggs that are, just like blowing up the earth. So one thing I wonder is, one thing that got annoying for me in like Black Ops, gosh, what was it? I think it was 4, when they just started introducing new artifacts that you had to go find and collect. So like, I was thinking, I'm like, wow, I really liked the Call of the Dead Shang stuff where you just go and it's low stakes and you just go get some artifacts. But then I just wonder, I'm like, how many artifacts are they going to start introducing into the Ether universe again? So how do you feel about that?
I would say if the artifacts are like in Chaos, you have like the Holy Grail. I don't know. I don't know if the Ark of the Covenant has been referenced, but just if you could pull it to actual historical things, I think that would be pretty fun to go on, like kind of like a treasure hunt for, artifacts of mass power or something like that. Like I'd be okay with that rather than like some weird ethereal device that's just kind of made up.
Come up with a new railrod every single time. Yeah.
It's like Ultimus looks for the Holy Grail. Or the Fountain of Youth. Or there's just so many stories they could do.
The Fountain of Youth. Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, heck, the Fountain of Youth could be flipped. Pseudoscientific. That's right up my alley. Like, let's go.
That'd be
beautiful. Picture it's like with 115 and people who are immune, it like delay or like chronologically stops them from aging, like freezing them in space. It's some pseudoscience explanation for why they're eternally youthful, but like everyone else who's not worthy becomes a zombie or something. Like, there's so much that, like I said, Chaos did that I think would be so fun to have in Ether to flesh out the universe and just have different players, different storylines, different dealing with different pantheons, this, that. Like, it would be fun to see that sort of in a loose connection. You could still use 115 as the kind of bridge to it all, because it's a power source, it teleports you, but I would love to see that.
I think that's totally fair. Rad, we've cut you off enough. Give us your utopia.
Yes.
Well, I guess my old utopia, if I could time travel, I think it would be Black Ops 4 gets all the resources it needs. It finishes the way that they envisioned it finishing. And then from there, I actually think Cold War should have been something completely new, but I think there would still be, ends in Ether. There's still things to add to it. So I think this might seem weird, but I think it would work in other mediums. Like the comics, to me, they kind of prove that they can do that. Comics, like short films, books. I really think there's room for that. Um, like, because I think the way it is, in Call of Duty, that format, that medium as a video game, in a way, kind of holds it back. Because, well, I mean, like you guys were saying, like you collect artifacts. It's like you got to have some goal for the end of this map, and there's only going to be so many maps in the DLC season. You're kind of restricted by the business end. So I would have liked to see Ether kind of expand into other things, but that Utopia's involves time travel. Based on what we know now, which is that Cold War is coming out and it's tied to Ether. We don't officially know if it's post-Hog, pre-Hog. I think I would want to go with the. I think I would want to go with the post-Hog, but the idea being, well, okay, the idea being there was a theory by Kaljitsu. He kind of brought it up again in his podcast today.
Sorry, by
And
who?
it was like by Kaljitsu.
Okay.
And it was about Eddie, because you remember, I mean, Eddie went to go with Samantha into the new universe. And his theory originally was like that was Richtofen's end game to get into the new universe. He basically won by the end because he got into it. But then today he kind of brought up the how Richthofen made some kind of deal with the Shadow Man. Like there's a thing where the Shadow Man's like, long ago, you made a promise to me. And it was like, maybe, because it's like, maybe it wasn't actually, that Richthofen. It was the child Richthofen. At some point, the Shadow Man came to him and made him promise something. And made him promise to, like, bring some kind of corruption into the new universe. And that would be how this, like, we saw in the trailer that, like, dark ether on the wall. Like, maybe he somehow brought the dark ether into it. And then I would want that to be the end of Eddie. No more Richthofen. I think that's enough. Just to say, he brought, with it because of a promise he made.
That's.
And then, and last caveat, I don't want any ties to Modern Warfare. That's it.
Yeah, that'll.
Here,
So
here.
let's use that as the transition.
That's basically half the Utopia.
Yeah, right. Let's use that as a transition for beyond just Cold War, beyond just our utopia for the next game. How we imagine, we've done over a decade of zombies now. What do you want out of the next decade of zombies? Do you want it to be all ether? Do you want it? I know, Matt, you got a lot of fun ideas on combining a lot of things. I guess around the table, what do y'all think on that?
Hunter, you got something?
No, you know what? Actually, I changed my mind. We're gonna start with Rad. I'm throwing a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah,
You caught me in my ruse. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. While to expand on your point of you don't want modern warfare. What expand on that?
I don't like. I mean, okay, converging timelines. We talked about this. This is like actually, one of the first podcasts we did, like together, in this season. Yeah, it was Matt sure called it. It was we were talking about Blackout and like all these universes converge. I'm okay with that in a sense, but it's like once it starts getting into non-Treyarch territory, like not part of the Black Ops series, that's when I start to kind of because it reeks of like corporate meddling to me.
There's the Infinite Warfare zombies reference, right? I mean, there's the one in Warzone,
Right.
but isn't in one of the maps there's Weiler's movies?
Yep.
So
Inside,
that's
We should mention one of the alpha maps had a poster from Infinite Warfare zombies.
Yep. So that's
Right. Well, I mean, there was the multiplayer map in Black Ops 4 that had Ether like movies. So, are there movies of real events, or is zombies a movie timeline?
I think there has to be movies of real events in the sense that George Romero and Call of the Dead's going to do some.
That's true.
Movies,
yeah,
so.
George. Yeah.
I mean, and the stuff with like pocket dimensions and weird, like if Blackout is some like ethereal plane of consciousness or whatever, I guess it doesn't necessarily kind of invalidate stuff from Infinite Warfare. Not that I want Infinite Warfare to be connected, but I guess there's ways to intertwine it.
Right.
Also,
yeah.
Dead Ops is by Willard Wyler. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that thought right there that you just said, Matt, the idea of Dead Ops
Or maybe
being by
Chaos.
Willard Wyler is I think I would be okay with if they were to bring Infinite Warfare zombies in, that the whole thing is just fictitious entirely. That the maps we play are the movies. That is the medium. There's nothing to them. It's not like they actually happened or Wyler's
Oh,
actually
okay.
an evil genius, but that is literally just a zombie series that he did. And maybe say, like George Romero, he was inspired by George Romero, who was inspired by Group 935 and that sort of activity, and just make it a fictional spin-off in the real world, but with
Right.
no impact whatsoever.
Okay,
that
real
almost
quick.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Then what would you?
I
no,
like
no,
that, but I think the reason I like that is because I do like Infinite Warfare Zombies. I think I just don't quite like Modern Warfare, and it's like I guess I can't have my cake and eat it too. I have to say,
Mm.
No non-Treyarch or all non-Treyarch, but
So then,
yeah, I
what's
don't know.
Mo's
It just
perception,
doesn't.
real
I
quick,
don't
on,
know.
on the Spaceland document inside Warzone? Do you? I personally don't really take the reused asset argument to be valid almost ever. But
Here's
what
the
do you?
you were the first to tell me, right? Isn't Warzone a composite of the multiplayer maps, right?
Of some of the
Yeah,
ground war
maybe.
maps and
So
Yeah,
yeah,
is the
it might be.
Spaceland document, the section where it can be found, is that in a multiplayer map already?
I imagine it's in a lot of places because
not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, meta level. I mean, in Infinite Warfare Zombies, even maps that were not Spaceland, they were kind of just scattered all over. They were like how in Black Ops games they'll have like
Mhm.
the Ipsum Dolor,
Yeah, the fake
documents like that just kind of all over the place. It was kind of like that.
But it is interesting that they use Infinite Warfare. I mean, I guess. Well, the other thing is that the Modern Warfare zombie mode had nothing to do with Infinite Warfare, right? Because remember, weren't that there were that leaks where it was there were like weird. It looked like the Boston Dynamics kind of robots, and there was some like they had like a zombie in chains or something like that. So it's just interesting to me that they reused the assets from the previous game. Like I don't know, maybe there was an early build or something where they were using Infinite Warfare stuff, but that's kind of I don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
I guess I'll make my quick statement on what I want to see for the 10 years. I don't want to see Ether for 10 years for the sake of Ether. I don't want, if this doesn't go that well in the Ether universe, that's fine. They can do whatever they want for it. But if it goes well and they're able to start something new, I would just like to see, yeah, like almost imagine Black Ops 2 Victus, or like that just going for 10 years almost, and it kind of being its own little isolated something or other.
Yeah. 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 It's just for me. I feel like any good story needs to have the real end. Not a. We ran out of budget. People lost interest. End.
Sure.
So I'd like. I would have liked TOG to be an end. Cold War could be an end. I just need it to happen at some point, and no, not go on too long, because even though I'll probably talk about this the rest of my life and about all these dumb little things, but I would like to have that. So and no Modern Warfare. So yeah. What do you,
Got it.
Matt? Move on to you.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, I do agree with you. I mean, I'm one of the people that maybe it's sacrilege to say, but I kind of like seeing the story continue. Um, but I think there's a palatable way of doing it, and these sort of side stories in Ether, like what happened to Brock and Gary. Like I would enjoy a lot of that. Um, I think eventually I would like to see like a return to Ultimus, just because they're so near and dear to my heart. But I think it would be fun to just start telling all these different side stories, and kind of like what I said earlier, just branch out and where else Ether could go. Places like Atlantis, or there's so many other crazy conspiracy and historical and mythological places that they
Mhm.
could go, that I just think it would be really fun to see
Right.
Ether kind of cover the gaps. I mean, since we'd have 10 years worth of people theorizing in places that sort of became important, like Harp is always mentioned, Bohemian Grove. Like there's so many things that they could do that I think would be fun to implement, that doesn't necessarily invalidate the ending of Tag or tread the same ground.
Right.
So I'd like to see a lot of that. And with Ultimus.
So, well, okay. So I was gonna say what Matt was saying kind of just as we're talking here, opened my eyes to the possibility of that more, of it, continuing. And the irony is that I actually have been saying that to pretty much everyone I talk to, is the idea that it's an open world. My argument's always like, what do you think that J.K. Rowling should shut down Wizarding World just because one, semi, significant teenage wizard finished his story arc? The Wizarding World is a historical phenomenon, really. It's built into the lore of magic throughout all time. So she could continue writing stories that have nothing to do with Harry the wizard with the scar on his head for the rest of her life, and have that whole world to expand upon. Same is true for, like, I'm also a fan of Magic the Gathering. It's a massive multiverse that actually just collapses lower and lower into sub stories that have little to no connection to each other. And I'm honestly fans of subplots that have less connections, or less relationship to those things which actually tie the main story together, like the planeswalkers, these individuals who actually can cross the multiverse or whatever. I'm actually more interested in the people who are just grounded in a single universe and their unique story, which has nothing to do with a grand multiverse. So yeah,
Low stakes.
Do what? Low stakes, yes, exactly. And so what you said, that this is a world. I mean, it's a world building project that's been going on for more than 10 years now. There is so much potential for continued story.
Yeah.
What I was originally going to say was a more selfish thing, is that I want to move on someday. I want to actually feel like I don't care anymore.
You're in for this wild ride.
I can't
You sign
stop.
up,
They
You
won't.
keep trying to
just-
stop, but you won't stop.
Exactly.
just accept it and it'll be faster. You'll enjoy the ride.
I think that might be right. I mean, I left the whole podcast thing, and I didn't even know if y'all were going to continue, because I guess I don't even know when or what got me the idea to start doing it after I basically stole the idea from some old codders and was like, hey, we should revive this. I think someone else had talked about, like, Tack probably, and I had discussed it, and then I left, and I thought maybe I had thrown this on y'all, but man, y'all picked it up and ran with it, and I'm like, dang it, now I'm missing out.
Right.
And there's still all this ether stuff just like going and going, and y'all have all so much to talk about, and I'm like, yeah, I am still passionate about it. They provided us with so much world to work with that you're right, it could go on for 10 more years very feasibly if done the right way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the same
So
thing,
what-
like you were saying, leaking worlds, nah, and all that. Like, we've had enough of that, but there is a world here to work with.
So I want to take that and run about your little hiatus that you had on the podcast, and we picked up the reins, and we absolutely tried to kill it the best we could here, and did a season 5
Yeah.
that at least I'm assuming everyone else we're pretty happy with and proud of. It was fun to just pump out content and talk to everybody. So we're happy for everybody that was able to stick around and listen to some of that throughout season 5, and I think we're going to start transitioning into season 6. But I guess what do you
Just like
all?
Warzone.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no.
Oh man, right on time.
Oh no. So I guess any comments, obviously, on season 5 and just our PDT podcaster Toten retrospective, and any thoughts? I'm at a loss for words besides just how much fun it was.
I feel like the fun's just about to begin, because a lot of the episodes we were in this drought of what's going to happen, with everything getting delayed. Like, there was so much mystery about where we're going to be in the next sort of zombie season, that it seems like I think it really begins now with whatever we're going to find for Cold War and where it takes. So I think it's only up from here. This was the off season.
Yeah. That's like kind of what sets this season apart the most, I think. Like, season 1, for context, was like before we even had YouTube. I think it was like just uploaded on like archive.org. And it was just, I think it was started by Fated Titan, I'm pretty sure. But that was like
Warfare and Grill for the stars of that show.
Legend.
And they started that like 2013. This is like when Die Rise was coming out. Then I think season 2 was like Black Ops 3, kind of, if I remember correctly. And then season 3, you started pretty much I think it was like right after Tog and or
Like
after Tog came out. Yeah.
the first teaser for Tog was our topic. We were talking about going back to Siberia because it became pretty clear pretty quickly that we were definitely going back to the Siberia base, and that hyped everyone
Right.
up, and so we jumped in.
It was a very like a very like big time in terms of like you can see the kind of fall and a little bit of a little bit of fall after the rise of kind of hype for that. And then this season's been like I would call it the era of uncertainty because
Well said.
whenever it was like you
the
wanted to
Cold War itself.
yeah
Mhm.
like because Hunter you didn't want to do the show anymore and it was like well I was enjoying those I do want to see more podcasts and like hey I'll do it and like I didn't have any real editing experience I didn't have any like podcast experience I was terrified to talk to new people that I had never talked to in voice chat before and we just kind of made it work and with no new content and
Right.
that really says a lot about how we've come together and I've really appreciated this whole season like it feels like it's been so long but it really hasn't because this started when COVID-19 like kind of
Yeah.
kicked off and then we
It was like a
went to
couple
lockdown.
weeks
Yeah.
before. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
and can I say for a lot of content creators how crazy it is. Like Warzone, drops late mid-March, which is
Yeah.
right when COVID starts, and so just like a lot of that part is interesting to me as well. Just how other content creators really took that and used it to their advantage. So yeah, we all just we looked up and we weren't discussing anything new like you said. It was the off season, but we
we
just
had the time and we had the
the passion going back,
passion.
the passion for zombies and for the old topics and just for things that we all have different opinion on, old ideas. It just it in that way it ended up kind of working out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was really fun to. I feel like this season was just sort of getting the gang together or getting the band back together for the reveal.
Right.
And as we build up to where we're going next. So, and I think where we're going, I'm really hopeful that it's going to be a return back to those old days. Like I would just love to see, even just with sort of videos on the channel, just like all the stuff that I used to look up, back when World at War and Black Ops happened, where it's like, oh, this Easter egg, this radio. Like I'm really looking forward to that type of stuff. Hopefully, this new iteration, they always seem to do it like every other game or so. If they have mod tools, stuff like it'd be so much fun to just see where we're going to go with the content on the channel. And I think the sky's the limit if everything's done right. That is in the game part. We're doing everything fine. So, so that's where I'm hoping for. Just a fun, smorgasbord of content that our channel can release due to zombies getting the love it deserves.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So I mean, Hunter, you're kind of spearheading the kind of new movement. This is the season finale, but it's not the end of Podcaster Toten. Don't want to reveal that too early, I guess, but
Yeah.
but we're coming back, but we've also got plenty of content coming out between, when we do come back. And what is kind of the plans for the channel for the coming future?
So yeah, as you said, we're going to kind of take a step back from PDT after this finale, and I think it's going to be one that's going to be hard to follow up, even with the material that we're going to have to work with. It's been such a great season. I think the standards are set high. Of course, we're going to have folks here working on the fresh, Easter egg information as it comes out and as the maps come out. I myself am jumping into some dark attempts. I run with Water KH and Preferred Whale, and I know B Doogie is going to be working with us as well, and possibly a couple other people. So we're going to be experiencing these Easter eggs raw, and we want to share that excitement of those experiences with y'all. Other things that you can look for and be hyped about is Rad is going to continue writing his incredible style of writing. He's written the whole Return Through Ether series, which you can find on CODs, and the 4 World at War video versions that were released prior to POG. Those definitely check them out. Their writing was beautiful. I recorded them and loved every minute of just recording that. So I think y'all can look forward to seeing more of those and some song breakdowns from various people across CODs.
speaking personally, I want to do some campaign gameplay if it ends up being semi, even in the area of Black Ops 1, just like campaign zombies relation. And so that's where I would like to see some of that. If I can find the motivation, I would like to do like a before launch. I'd like to do some refresher series on Black Ops to get people, for example, the amount of people that don't know that Mason killed JFK, even though it's the whole point of the end cutscene, just baffles me. It just baffles me. So like, just going over, and the fact that in the Warzone Easter egg for the know your history, the numbers that are displayed are the ascension code that gets Mason to go kill JFK. So I think there's a lot of potential. There's a relevancy there to bring it up. So I'd like to explore some of that too. I really like the song analysis. I even want to take that into Cold War. There's just it's endless.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we should also mention that the whole point of this channel is to kind of represent CODs, represent the whole community. So if you're a member of CODs and you have an idea for a video, you genuinely would like to see it made, give any of us a shout. We are not our voices should not be, the law, So yeah, give us any ideas. You got any? You can write a script, honestly. So
Yeah,
we'd love to work with you.
Make your own video and see what you can do with it. Submit it to us, and that was the other thing. We even talked about we want to do like community plays, like top, all sorts of stuff. So, like there's so many things. We want to integrate the community even more than we are, because even we are busy people with our own lives. We can't pick up and make a YouTube channel, like work on, just so even with us. So it's this is really a community effort. So
Right. So
everyone's
if you're not part of CODs, you're not in the Discord or on the forums, definitely come join those and like get to know us, get to know everyone in the community. They're very friendly people. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be great to have discussion about Cold War, and also, I mean, if you want to participate on the YouTube channel, you can. So definitely do
sir.
that.
Well, it was a good season, everybody.
Yeah.
I say so.
Very fun knowing you guys for sure, and fun.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was all right. We're not talking. But yeah, and thank you, audience, for tuning in whenever you did.
Y'all make it happen.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Talk to you guys when the next season starts.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.